Do I regret the fact that he has quite obviously conducted himself in a manner unbecoming? Yes.
Unbecoming? He was a sex offender.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm being polite, in the sense that he was a sex offender. But no. Was I right in...
All right, well, big breaking news out of the UK today, as apparently Prince Andrew, well-known Jeffrey Epstein associate and younger brother of the current King of England, was just arrested on allegations of misconduct while in public office due to those very Epstein connections. This is huge news. This is coming just weeks after Prince Andrew was stripped of his major royal titles as a result of the allegations and all of the fallout that was happening there. It's pretty interesting to me, frankly, that despite the fact the Andrew Epstein connection is nothing new, it was well known for years, only now suddenly that the Epstein files and the Epstein issue has become resurfaced and this big issue once again. Now, they're taking all of these actions. Is it almost an attempt to save face? We'll answer those questions in today's video. But first, let's tell you about the current situation, and then we'll discuss some of those implications. So guys, do us a favor before we get into it. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We greatly appreciate the support, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And that said, so let's kind of beg the question in this video, what does it really mean? Is it one attempt to get heat off of everybody else, or is this going to result in a string of a bunch of new arrests of people who are implicated in the Epstein files? Well, let's answer that question by first and foremost taking a listen to the key details surrounding this arrest.
Police say they took the brother of King Charles into custody on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Officers reportedly arrived at the royal estate in eastern England earlier this morning to make the arrest of the former prince, who turns 66 years old today. Andrew is in custody, and investigators are carrying out searches at addresses in Berkshire and Norfolk. Police are releasing this statement in part without naming Andrew, by the way, saying, quote, "Following a thorough assessment, we have now opened an investigation into this allegation of misconduct in public office, an offense that carries up to life in prison in the UK, by the way." We're still waiting more details of this breaking news, but this comes after Andrew was stripped of his royal title last October over ties to convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, and after Thames Valley Police said they were assessing a complaint over the alleged sharing of confidential material by the former prince with the late sex offender. The former prince has consistently denied any wrongdoing. Misconduct in public office refers to, quote, serious, willful abuse or neglect of powers relating to the role of public office. We shall see what comes of this. It's a developing story, as you guys know, so we'll keep our viewers updated.
Yeah, so look, I'm not here to rain on anyone's parade. I certainly think this is huge news and a positive development, right? At least something resembling accountability is happening to someone. At the same time, I will say I do think it is noteworthy that in the end, they basically got Andrew on a technicality. And the reason I say that is because you notice the core allegation, this whole investigation, is not actually about whether Epstein and Andrew were with kids together on the island. The complaint here being investigated is actually related to Andrew allegedly sharing classified government information from the UK to Jeffrey Epstein, which, don't get me wrong, is certainly an interesting piece of information. It does lend credence to the widespread theory that Epstein may have been some type of shady and strange intelligence asset. After all, when you read many of his communications, it's kind of curious as to why he was constantly appearing to solicit information from so many powerful people, and he was just such a nosy guy all the time, right? So, that is certainly not something to ignore, but at the same time, I would point out that when it pertains to the widespread social theory as to, let's say, what Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein were up to, I think it has a lot of people, at least what's in people's minds, right? Has a lot more to do than simply just classified information. And we all know what we're saying by that.
You raised the question of Jeffrey Epstein in your remarks about in the Q&A.
Well, I think he's got a problem.
What do you think the problem will be?
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it.
Right. So again, that's the point about this that I'm trying to raise. Not saying it's not a good thing, but what they're essentially alleging is that of all the things Prince Andrew did on Epstein Island, the only point at which he may have broken the law is when he shared classified information with Epstein that maybe he wasn't supposed to be. And don't get me wrong, under normal circumstances, those are very serious charges. They're basically similar to sedition or treason over in the UK. But at the same time, is that necessarily what people were talking about or hoping to see charges brought for, right? Just a question that needs to be posed here. And it secondly begs the question as to why then are there no prominent cases of sexual misconduct or rape or sexual assault charges being brought against anyone, even as it pertains to Prince Andrew here. And that could be for a number of reasons. It could be because of the evidence simply doesn't exist enough to charge people outside of Epstein and Maxwell. It could be because the royal family here is trying to maybe save face, but at the same time make it look like they're doing something, and so they don't want all of those embarrassing details to come out. So they'll say, look, well, maybe Prince Andrew just shared classified information. It looks to everyone like we're doing something. Yes, we're taking down Andrew, but it's not over. We don't want to really be exposing the details that we don't want people to know. Or it could simply be because the Epstein sort of sex ring went a little bit smaller than maybe the conspiracy theory, quote unquote, says. I don't exactly know. I'm not here to comment on that. I'm just pointing out, right? It is noteworthy. They're not charging him with sexual misconduct. They're basically bringing this sort of side thing. It's almost like when you take down Al Capone for tax evasion after knowing what he may have been up to, but you couldn't prove it. You couldn't win that court case. So let's say, hey, classified information, right? That is the charge. Now, secondly, I think a lot of people are looking at this and saying, well, does this mean other people are going to fall here very soon? Are other powerful people going to end up getting arrested for their ties to Epstein? Is this the start of something, right? To which I, again, here say to it, it's possible. I'm rooting for everyone to be held accountable that did things wrong in this situation. At the same time, I would point out that conveniently, these are charges that are very particular to Prince Andrew's position, right? Because he's the UK royal in this case. The charges particularly are surrounding him sharing classified information, basically as a government official. Plenty of people involved with Epstein at the time who were not government officials or who were out of the United States. So all of these laws, all of these rules might not necessarily apply. So these are all things certainly to keep an eye on, right? Just saying about it. Now, that said, at the same time, we still don't know what may come out of this investigation, because it's worth noting that no actual charges have been brought thus far. But according to the Crown Prosecution Service, the offense concerns serious willful abuse or neglect of power or responsibilities of the public office held. And this is defined as when someone, number one, willfully neglects their duty and or willfully misconducts themselves to such a degree as to amount an abuse of the public's trust in the office holder, and without any reasonable excuse or justification, the maximum sentence for the crime is life imprisonment. So while the investigation or the tip simply started over classified documents and information, it's fully possible that that ends up expanding to potential sexual misconduct. So that's definitely something we're just going to have to see, to keep an eye on. But, that's sort of my take on it with the full nuance, right? On one hand, it's good. It's a good start for sure. It's a good development. At the same time, just keep an eye on how far this actually goes and how far the accusations actually go. Because as I'm sitting here right now, it again does seem like they sort of chose the technicality route to take him down. And again, conveniently, these are charges that really it would be hard to apply to other people. Although perhaps, I don't know, an exception to that could be the Clinton family, right? You're talking here about a former U.S. president. Who knows what they were up to. And recently this week, Hillary Clinton came out of these shadows to try to defend the Epstein accusations, maybe having some foresight here of what was about to happen. And to make a long story short, it didn't go all that well. It sounded kind of embarrassingly similar to the way Prince Andrew was talking about this before he got taken down. But nonetheless, take a listen to this.
Do you regret the links that there have been? We have no links. We have a very clear record that we've been willing to talk about, which my husband has said. He took some rides on the airplane for his charitable work. I don't recall ever meeting him. Did you
ever meet Ghislaine Maxwell?
I did on a few occasions, and thousands of people go to the Clinton Global Initiative. So we are more than happy to say what we know, which is very limited and totally unrelated to their behavior or their crimes. And we want to do it in public because let's make this transparent.
There are calls for another individual who denies wrongdoing to go before Congress on this matter. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly Prince Andrew. Do you think he should testify?
I think everybody should testify. Look,
including the former prince?
I think everybody should testify who is asked to testify. They want to pull us. Why do they want to pull us into this? To divert attention from President Trump. This is not complicated.
Yeah, so apparently now they're claiming that Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein never really knew each other that well. They just met a couple of times to talk about philanthropy and charity projects and nothing more, which is, of course, exactly what Bill Clinton and Ghislaine Maxwell are doing in this photograph in the hot tub with what appears to possibly be one of the Epstein victims. You know, they're all just discussing charity together, nothing more. I mean, who hasn't gotten together with a business client in the middle of a jacuzzi half naked to talk about business plans? That's where everyone talks about their business plans. Yeah, okay. You know, look, I'm not here to accuse people of things I can't prove, but Hillary, I'm going to take the wild guess that many of the times Bill was hanging out with Epstein, you were not there. As a matter of fact, you seem to kind of admit that fact that Bill met with this guy a lot more than you. And given the certain proclivities and what we know about Bill Clinton, I'm further going to have to take a guess that he didn't exactly always tell you what he was up to. So that might be something to keep an eye on. Of course, secondly, Hillary's now claiming the Clintons are completely transparent. Hey, we want to share with the world. We want to talk about what we know. We have nothing to hide. This is all Donald Trump's that is, you know, covering up stuff. Of course, completely ignoring the fact that the House GOP has spent now basically over a year trying to get you to testify. You have refused. You have refused to comply. As a matter of fact, the House was very close to holding you in contempt of Congress, and only upon that did the Clintons finally agree to testify. You know, that is not actually the behavior of people who want to share, want to help out, have absolutely nothing to hide. But, you know, I guess believe what you people want to believe.
What was your reaction when you saw some of the material that has been released? I'm thinking, for example, of images of your husband apparently in a hot tub in a swimming pool on Epstein's plane. What was your reaction to that? And do you know the context surrounding some of those images?
Absolutely. And it wasn't a hot tub on a plane. It was one of the stops they made to look at philanthropic and charitable work that my husband has done, saving literally millions of lives around the world. It turned out that was done long before there was any public awareness and certainly any conviction of any crime by Jeffrey Epstein. So it was a short period of time that was in pursuit of charitable philanthropic work. A lot of people were traveling at the same time. Many staff members, guests, other supporters of the foundation. If Bill and I had a penny for every person we've taken pictures with, we would be extremely rich today.
Well, I think you are extremely rich already, but, you know, you got that? Apparently, all Bill Clinton was doing here in the hot tub was going to look at philanthropic art. What kind of philanthropic art? We have no idea, but hey, who doesn't want to take their clothes off and get into a hot tub just so they can enjoy some paintings? Yeah, you know, definitely, 100%. So, long story short, I'm not sure this excuse is exactly going well for Hillary and Bill. Sounds frankly awfully familiar to the nonsense that Prince Andrew tried to put out here before he ultimately got arrested. Now, that said, will the same charges be able to apply? We don't exactly know. You definitely... I mean, I've long speculated that I think that if powerful people were involved with this Epstein stuff, they certainly would be very good at covering up their tracks, right? So it's also a question of what can you prove, right? Not everything in the Epstein files is actually documented fact. A lot of it is hearsay, it's tips, it's allegations, it's things that are not credible, can't be proven. So again, I'll say, don't necessarily get your hopes up for this translating into some type of wider accountability or arrests or a bunch of people going down. But hey, you know, who knows? Definitely you got to start somewhere. But, you know, I'm just going to say in the end, I don't think it was just about philanthropic art. And to the degree to which it is, hey, maybe that might be something to look into. You can do the Prince Andrew method, which is to say, Doesn't that sound maybe a little bit kind of like money laundering, right? Isn't that sort of what fine art is very often connected to? Really, Hillary, you saved millions of lives when Bill Clinton was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein because we gave it to charity. Yeah, typical Democrat excuse, actually. Sounds like you were engaged in a lot of fraud, as a matter of fact, but who knows? Anyways, that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on this whole situation in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.